Meghan going to be mad. Parliament holds an emergency meeting to investigate Archie and Lilibet after Harry is officially stripped of his role. Harry and Meghan need to watch their backs. There is a government source who has claimed that Parliament is going to be looking into the births, the birth certificates, and the secrets surrounding those invisible children. And they're needing some information as to what is happening with their divorce. This has everything to do with the line of succession amidst a divorce. And I'm sure the Parliament is paying very close attention indeed to the news and all the ridiculous stories coming out. Charles is not going to be the one handling this. He's leaving it up to Parliament. Legally, they can ask questions and they can take away those titles. Any feedback from Charles and William is going to be acknowledged, of course. Harry apparently is living in a hotel and Meghan is either living in some rented house or maybe they own it. The house, though, is in a trust. Come September, somebody's going to Germany, but we don't know if it's going to be Harry and Meghan or just Harry. People are asking for them to be removed from the venue, though, especially Meghan. Harry should really be banned too. These days, you can print anything off the internet that you want to. You can find birth records and wills, graduation certificates, basically anything you can come up with. You know what they need to be investigating, though, Doria's father's passing and the way that she scammed that house away from her siblings. And when it comes to the invisible kids, well, an investigation needs to happen. It needs to be done by family services and the police. If there really are kids living in that house, just imagine how bad their lives are with all the drugs, the lack of care. How many people are even living there? I cannot imagine how intense the stress and the tension is. Harry, are you even going to visit your invisible kids? Are you going to bring them to the hotel with you? Or are you just going to keep on telling lies about your messed up life to make Meghan Markle, that nasty woman you married, happy? Meghan's a freeloader. She's a moot. She needs to be kicked out of that house. And also, what is up with Marcus Anderson? I mean, how weird. I can only imagine the diseases floating around that house. And fine, let Doria bring your drugs and then slam the door in her face. Harry should really change the locks and lock all the windows too. You know Meghan's going to be out there stalking the home, and they should call the cops on her when she does that. I'm also wondering if her credit cards are even in her name. If they're not, then maybe they can freeze them. Money's gonna come up missing, you know it. And when it does, I think you can check Doria's bank account. Harry, have you even heard of the dry cleaners? I mean, why are your clothes always so wrinkled? You always look like a slob. And what's up with your hideous shoes? It looks like Harry is losing even more hair. And Meghan doesn't know how to dress. She looks even worse than disheveled Harry. Clearly, she cannot afford anybody to help her. And then what about that restaurant they showed up at? The restaurant was basically the same as Meghan's $4.99 salad bar at Sizzler's. Pretty cheap place, $30 a meal. But I guess when you're basically bankrupt, going out every couple of months for a cheap meal is the thing you're gonna do. Something that you're accustomed to, at least. They rode in separate cars, and neither one of them was wearing a wedding ring. We all know what's coming, so maybe they could just get it over with, file for legal separation and sign it. And let's move on to the really horrible stuff about all the lies about the divorce. We don't have all year to waste twiddling our thumbs after all. Parliament requires the DNA of all four of them. Harry and Meghan are such cowards. You know what though? People are watching them, and so are MI5 and certain groups in the US too. In other news, WME claims that Meghan is renting space across from their offices. There are some other reports that claim that Meghan is living there as well. I'm not sure if there's any news, though, about what happened to the Montecito Olive Garden spread. Is it empty now? It must be such a circus out there in LA dragging those dolls around, right? And what is happening with Harry's hair? I mean, it looks terrible. I couldn't help but notice that in the photos from the video of the two of them calling up those winners, Harry's hair has a spot right above his ear that either is completely bald or it's turned gray. And I noticed two areas in the latest photos that seem to be missing hair. Maybe he has alopecia. It does not look like male pattern baldness, that's for sure. And it looks like he's trying to part his hair and comb over the top area that's thinning. Or maybe he's actually trying out some new transplants. Anyway, I'm not sure what's going on, but it looks so weird. If the space Meghan is renting is really across from the WME agency, then is it not a commercial space that she's renting? And in California, you cannot live in a space that is classified as commercial. It's state law. I've got some good friends who live in California, and sometimes they would work late into the night at their rent-a-commercial office by the side of the freeway. And one night, don't you know it, they discovered there was this man secretly staying there. And the next day, they told the management, and they informed them it's not legal in California to live in a building that's used for commercial purposes. So, of course, they looked into it. So they found out that it was one of their tenants. Apparently, he was hard up for cash, and so he decided to sublet his office to some man who was using the office as a living space. And so they kicked him out. So Meghan better not let anybody know that she sleeps there if it really is zoned as a commercial building. And another thing I was curious about is why would Meghan Markle even need to rent anything? I would assume that she and Marcus can just go live with Mommy Doria. It is sad, though, isn't it, that a couple of malcontents like Harry and Meghan can just carry on this ridiculous farce like some type of TV reality show. So undignified. And that's why none of them should be allowed to hold any royal titles whatsoever. They are showing themselves as well as Harry's family up with all their bad behavior. I can't imagine, though, how bad the divorce is going to be. Just picture it, Meghan out there talking to anyone who will listen about Harry, how cruel he was, how he was this druggie and drunkard, and his family was so mean to her. Well, if Meghan pushed him too far and ended up a widow, it would be just as bad. Unfortunately, though, there is never going to be any peace when it comes to Meghan. It's just gonna send her up another route. Oh, Harry is mentally unwell. Just look at what that horrible royal family did to me. How could I possibly support these kids when they're not gonna give me the $5 million a year I need? And she is gonna go on and on. She has no filter, and she simply doesn't know when to shut up. It's a real shame that there's not a muzzle out there to fit her. I also suspect, though, that Harry may be still holding on to hope that Meghan is going to need him, so I don't think he's going to spill anything meaningful. Meghan has thrown him away, though, and he doesn't want to face it. It is a shame in some ways. In some ways, I feel sorry for him. I do get the feeling that Meghan has been the one in control the whole time when it comes to the money and the phone accounts. Meghan convinced him, apparently, to change his phone number. I guess so that she could see every call in and every call out. I would be shocked, though, if she didn't also have email access to Harry controlled. I realize he's most likely running really low on cash right now, but anyway, I hope that he's got enough to set up a whole new phone number for himself, a number with a password that Meghan does not know. And it's important that he does not use it to access the shared email accounts. He needs to get a lawyer to lock down control of his likeness. Meghan shouldn't be allowed to use his name without prior approval, and definitely not his image either. And actually, the same should be done for the invisible kids. Harry, you gotta do something. My guess is it will be in the new year, maybe springtime, that we see something happening. I think the king is going to want to let Christmas pass without any drama from the two of them, and Harry has got to comply with his father's wishes if he wants help to get out of this mess that he has created for himself. And I suspect it's Harry wanting the divorce, not Meghan. But, Meghan always has to be the victim, so she would want everybody to believe that it is her wanting the divorce, because Harry is just so mean, so horrible. She seems to be trying to make out that they're together and they're so happy, but I suspect Harry wants out, and he wants out of the US too. He must have figured out by now that she married him for his title and his money. She doesn't love him or care about him. And eventually, this issue of the invisible kids is going to be resolved. Eventually, the truth will come out. Let's just watch them try to explain their way out of this mess. But more so, who are they going to try to blame? And you, do you agree with me? Please tell me your opinion below in the comments. If you think my video is helpful, don't be afraid to like and share with your relatives and friends who need it anytime you want. And don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.